Welcome back, boys.
Holy shit.
Boys are back. It's been a little while.
It's been a minute.
Again, every time you guys always say, you guys aren't going to be back. And here we are. We're back. I'm sick of hearing it. I'm sick of all the comments. Everyone's saying you guys are never coming back. And every time we always come back. We're here.
It's hard work proving haters wrong.
I've been harping on the Instagrams.
Yeah, it's crazy. But look, to all the haters, hey, we're back and we're here. And guess where we're going? Vatican City.
Oh, shit.
The Vatican. What do you guys know about the Vatican? How do you feel about it?
Well, you and I have been there.
Yeah.
Jason,
Jason's been there. I think this is the
Yeah,
first.
yeah, I've been there.
Yeah?
Yep.
This is the first time in Country Boy history that we've actually been to one of these places.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And I know we said originally on Country Boys, we're starting small and going to the biggest. And technically this is the smallest by population and by land, smallest country, but I think it's the biggest in a lot of ways, like in tourism.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're about. So look, this could have been the first episode, but I think as far as like recognition, tourism, people going there, it's pretty big, despite it being literally small.
Yeah, I think where it's at too, it's people are going to end up there. It's like if you're in Rome, you can stop at this whole other country. It's pretty sweet deal. So.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people don't even realize it's its own country. Like it's that small where you're like, wait, it's an actual country, but hey, it checks the list, so we're going there. And I guess with this one, we always say, would we go? Because a lot of the countries we've never even heard of or, never been to. So I think on this one, we'll reevaluate it. Would we go back or would we, if there was somebody who hasn't gone, would we tell them to go?
Maybe you're going to tell us some stuff about this place that we didn't know before we went there that might change our minds. And we might never go back.
Yeah, we might not go back. We might go back. I don't know. It's maybe up in the air. I feel like already going there once, it's one of those ones where, I don't know, some places you want to go back. Some places you're like, I've been there, done that, seen it. So I don't know. Let's see. We'll get into it, but I don't know. This is going to be a little bit different than some of the other Country Boy episodes because with it being so small, I don't know. It doesn't have the same list of criteria, I guess, that we've had on.
That's true, yeah. I mean, it's not, it's not like a proper country in the same way that we're talking about some of the other small ones.
Can you Can you get scuba lessons?
There's no beach.
I think this is going to be the one episode of Country Boys where you can't scuba dive. There's maybe a fountain or something you could go into.
You could maybe scuba dive in the holy water. They've got to have a giant fucking vat of holy water downstairs.
That's true.
I mean, it's close to the Tiber River, so you can maybe go scuba diving in there and find some old
float the river.
But does that count as being in the country?
No, it's technically outside of the country. So
yeah.
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 All right, so getting through the rundown. The capital is, of course, just Vatican City because it's a city itself. The size, so it's, as we said, the smallest country, 0.19 square miles.
Jesus, that's even smaller than I thought.
So I forget, all the statistics, it's like you could fit 30 Vatican cities in Central Park, and it's like, it's super tiny. You can walk around the entire country in like 30 minutes.
Is that really 30?
I don't know, maybe like 20, but
that's still
pretty good.
And it puts it in perspective too. Even having been there, it still doesn't seem that small.
Yeah, it seems a little bigger once you're there, but then when you kind of, see it on a map from like an aerial shot, you're like, oh yeah, it is really tiny.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you're there, it does feel a little bit bigger.
I think it also seems bigger because it's packed with tourists and it's dense, like going through all the different tours and things. It seems like you spent like a lot more time. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like the Sistine Chapel took,
Yeah, it definitely does feel bigger once you're there. But yeah, 0.19 square miles is crazy. That's that's nothing. So super tiny, basically just a church and a museum and a garden wrapped around a wall. So super small area-wise. Population. So there are actual Vatican residents here.
Yeah.
So the population is like 750-ish
Is it really 750?
of like Vatican residents. Yeah. And so it's kind of weird here too. So unlike every other country, there's no, like, you don't have a birthright here. So if you're born, if you're born in other countries by birth, you get the citizenship. Where here, it's all like appointed. So you're basically from somewhere else and then you get granted citizenship. And it's also, I think, the only place where you can get, like, once you're done with the church or you leave, you get your citizenship taken away.
Oh, okay.
So
Are there people born here? Is there a hospital on the Vatican premises?
I think there might be a small hospital. If not, I think even if you were just like on a tour and you gave birth, it wouldn't count. Or if you were like a family that lived there and you gave birth, then wouldn't count.
Is that
It's
like
gotta be
some of the military bases are like that, right? Where like if you're born in the military base, like my cousin was born in Spain, but it's like U.S. territory.
Yeah.
So
If it's on base.
he didn't get Spanish citizenship. So
Yeah.
it's kinda-
Well, that makes sense.
yeah, definitely. I don't know.
Are there citizens? They're citizens of the Vatican. Like there are Vatican. What do you call them? Vaticanicians.
Vatican. I don't know.
Neo-Vaticans.
I don't think they have a term for them because there's so few people, but I think they're just Catholics.
Yeah,
They live in the
makes sense.
capital.
But
Which again, that begs the question of like who's having a baby on Vatican premises. You know what I mean? Like
yeah, you're already disobeying rules.
750 people. There's probably like 725 nuns and 25 priests.
Yeah, it's all. I think it's mostly like cardinals and
Right.
bishops and I don't know whoever else, but yeah. So I think this 750. I think it's also like there's a Swiss Guard, so I think they get like temporary citizenship. But I think that like they have their own passports and stuff, so it is recognized as a country. But it's not like once you're a Vatican citizen, it's like you're a citizen for life. Like the second you leave your work or whatever there, then you know you're back to your old passport, I guess. So
Can you get your passport stamped by the Vatican?
I don't know. I feel like you can because
Right.
they have all like the legislative stuff to make itself an actual country, but
Right.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know if
It'd be a pretty cool.
I don't know if they have
passport
like
stamp.
a passport office in there, but I doubt that.
Good Google question.
Yeah.
Follow
Hey,
up.
hey, our Vatican citizens, let us know.
When you see this, reply in the comments with the right answer.
Jeff's always getting our fans involved.
Yeah, and stop saying, "Hey, you guys are never coming back," because we've already proven you wrong about that. All right. So the language. So with it being surrounded by Rome, Italian is kind of like the default language, but it's also Latin.
Yeah.
Like the
makes
ATMs
sense.
are in Latin.
Oh wow,
What?
The
That's wild.
like I think the kind of administrative language is Latin, but yeah, like they still I think to some extent use Latin as like a spoken language there.
Can people, so tourists that are getting money out of the ATM in the Vatican City have to understand Latin?
I mean, you can probably select the different languages like
Oh, can
English,
you?
French, Chinese, or whatever. But I think it's like maybe defaults to it. I don't know. I just saw a couple images of like the Latin ATM. So
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's
know.
interesting though.
That's just for the church employees, i.e. the citizens.
I mean, but who's going to an ATM is like Latin?
Latin. Let's test my
Yeah.
ninth grade Latin skills.
Glad I took that class.
Yeah, right.
But I think this is one of the few
SATs.
places where Latin is alive and kicking. People are still speaking it to some extent because I forget when it was, but there was some like point recently where the like Catholic masses were still just conducted in Latin, like 50 years ago, even like I think like within a recent amount of time where
Yeah.
as long as
Yeah.
Latin's been dead, they've still been doing Catholic masses in Latin. But
Do they still do that? They
I
do
think
Latin
like
services,
super
don't they?
traditional places.
Awful churches.
Dude, I mean,
They
Catholic
really wanna-
churches like Orthodox. No, that's Greek. I don't know. I'd be curious.
I think there still are some places that do Latin masses, and probably in the Vatican. But
I would imagine they
I
would,
mean,
right?
what's the point? You're not understanding anything. You're just falling asleep.
The other 749 people understand it.
Yeah, they're like laughing at a Latin joke. Oh
Yeah.
man! And then they also, I mean, English. I think the Swiss Guard have to speak like German, French. So
Okay.
yeah, but mostly I think they're communicating probably in Italian with it being surrounded by Rome. The religion, duh, they're all Buddhist. But yeah, Catholic, of course, and then the currency is euro. And it's actually, so the other kind of interesting thing is it's one of 6 absolute monarchies. So the Pope, who's not just the head of the Catholic Church, is also kind of like the default head of the king of the Vatican City. And the other ones, so we've already been to Brunei. We had the Sultan of Brunei. Oman, we've been to Qatar. The Qatar had the
Yeah.
royal family. Saudi Arabia, and then Swaziland. So Maybe we'll get to Swaziland soon.
Swaziland.
I feel like that's a tiny country that's
On our radar. CountryBoyz coming for you, Swaziland. Look out.
But the one difference about this place is all the other monarchies, they're hereditary. It's like a family that controls it. This one, it's the only elected monarchy, and it's like an absolute monarchy. So, hey, the Pope has complete control of this place. This is his kingdom.
Does the Pope ever, I guess he probably did carry out some executions, but I guess that's not like those older popes. When
We'll get to some of the older popes.
Okay.
There's a...
the older popes are like the emperor.
The older popes were crazy.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
All right, so physical geography, I mean, not much to speak of. It's 0.19 miles, so I think there's a small hill.
Fuck yeah.
There's a garden.
There's gardens. There's
Big fountain.
a big fountain.
Lots of stolen treasures from around the world.
Yeah.
That's like geography.
around the world is... But, yeah, not much to speak of geographically speaking. It's basically just a flattish...
I don't know that a
piece of
fountain
land.
is geography.
There's water.
It's running water. It's running water. See, I'd count the fountain.
Okay.
So yeah, not much to speak of in the physical, but they do have like the gardens that are very well maintained, and I don't think you can. I think you can walk around them, but you have to get like a special ticket. So
Yeah.
most of the time you're not seeing the countryside of the Vatican, and it's also it's only one of 3 completely surrounded countries that are completely within
Landlocked.
a country,
Right.
landlocked.
In a country.
And so we've been to the other 2.
Oh,
You have
I know one.
have a guess?
Lesotho.
Yep. Lesotho
shit.
was one.
Lesotho.
You know, I don't remember. So,
San Marino, right
Yeah,
up the
I was
street.
gonna say, it's
oh yeah, the other, yeah,
just
So-
the neighbor.
yeah, right on the other side of the river.
I need to go to San Marino. It's on my list.
Is it?
Check that. Well, I mean, yeah, at some point.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. Yeah,
San Marino, it sounded cool. That was the
It's an early episode.
Yeah.
episode 6 maybe. Where
6 or 7.
were we still at the station?
yeah.
Yeah,
Still in our old studio.
Yeah. We've upgraded a bit since we're living large out of the
No.
before we were just hiding it.
But yeah, so landlocked, and that's about it. So basically, it's probably the only country too that's landlocked by a city, so completely within the city of Rome. So you're not even just like within the country; it's
City within a city within
a city within a city,
state.
or a country within a city. All right, so we'll go into the history a bit. So I think back in like the Roman times, this whole area was just like countryside, like it was outside of the old Rome. But I think it was originally the spot of Nero's circus. So it was where it was like a big like racetrack.
That was the original one. Oh yeah.
So I think it was there, and then I think John the Baptist, it was his original burial ground. So from there is kind of where they started building the church. So then in the 1500s, St. Peter's Basilica was built or started being built. But I think that was initially there was like a tomb there, and then it was, I don't know, maybe like a smaller church, and then or smaller cathedral of some type, and then they built over that St. Peter's. So I think for a long time though, it was still like, it's been the Vatican, I feel like, forever.
Yeah.
Once they started building on it, I think it kind of stayed the same way, and then they made St. Peter's Basilica, which is like a giant church. But yeah, so 1500 St. Peter's Basilica. The popes, they controlled the Papal States, which was like the region that, so I guess before Italy was a country and before all these other places, the Vatican probably was a bigger country before it was, the Vatican as we know it. It was the Papal States, which were just, I don't know, the surrounding territories. So it was that from 745 to 1870. And then 1870 is when Italy unified, became a kingdom. The Vatican didn't want to become part of it. They were like, "Hey, we're the papal states."
So they never became.
So, well, in 1870, once Italy started unifying, that's when they put up the walls. So they were like walled themselves in, and they were like, no, we're not joining Italy. We're our own thing. So from 1870 to 1929, it was basically like a walled in fort. And I think they were like, I don't know how much interaction they had with the outside in Italy, but from what I understand, they were basically just like walled in for 50 years.
Just completely guarded.
And kind of just like standing off, like, no, we're not joining you guys.
Right.
I don't think they tried to like invade it. They're just kind of like, all right, you built walls and we'll let you be. But kind of like San Marino, you're like, why is that a country when Italy unified? I think.
Did they essentially still run all the churches or whatever in Italy at that time? Like,
yeah, I think they've always been the thing. So
that's why, I mean, the country didn't.
They're just like, okay.
Yeah, you do your thing, whatever.
But apparently there was like a standoff where they were like, the popes were just sealed in there, and that standoff lasted for about 50 years. And then Mussolini, before he was like the dictator, I guess he was just a ruler of some sort. And so he ended it, and he was like, all right, you guys win. We'll give we'll make you your own country. So he kind of designated them as the country, which it's been like that since 1929.
So they have Mussolini to thank for them.
Yeah, so Mussolini did something right, I guess, if you're a Vatican citizen.
Pro-Vatican country.
Yeah, if you're a sympathizer with them.
Fucking Vatican sympathizer scum.
So then since 1929, been its own country and been recognized as a country. All right, so we've talked about the popes, and we talked about how, I mean, there's been some good popes. They do a lot of charity work, and you see the popes go to, like, modern popes go to super Catholic countries, and it's like, Bon Jovi's there.
Yeah, rock stars, dude.
It's crazy, but not all the popes were, these cool, charitable, peace spreading people. A lot of them, and I mean, we're talking. The popes go back super far. I guess there's been 266, which
wow,
I thought there'd be maybe, I don't know.
No, that seems like a
more,
lot. I mean, think about like a lifetime. Well, essentially a lifetime.
They didn't live
right?
as long though, too.
Yeah,
that's true. But still, I mean, they're probably all in power. What, maybe at least bare minimum, like a good 20 years or something like that. Average.
That's probably pretty.
I mean, but you think about like U.S. presidents, and we've had, I don't know, 45.
Yeah.
And that's in a couple hundred years, and they serve 4 terms. Where like popes can, I mean, in theory, you could serve 60 years. Like once you're in, you're in. So 244, but then you also go back like, I don't know when the first pope was, but 400 BC, I don't know, AD, I don't know.
Yeah,
that's just a guess, but somewhere around there. So I feel like 266 seems like a lot, but it's also, I don't know. Going back that far, you would think maybe like 500, but yeah, it's hard to say. So let's get into these bad popes, and we love crazy characters here. We love wild human beings. We've talked about a lot of them.
Boys.
So I think some of these popes are going to make our list. So once we get to the best of, I mean, these guys will put some of the other crazy characters we've had to.
Oh, definitely.
Give them a run for their money. So first, we have Benedict IX. He was in power from 1012 to 1056. So the Dark Ages. But he became a pope when he was 12.
Damn.
Nice.
12?
It's kind of like Egyptian stuff.
He
became pharaoh at 6.
He was appointed because his uncle, I think his uncle was the pope, and his uncle was like, just, I don't know, granted him.
Don't fuck this
wild.
up.
A 5th grader. Could you, a 5th grader being in charge of the state church?
Well, maybe a 7th grader, but still.
12?
Yeah.
Aren't you like
Yeah, that's more.
6th
It's like
grade,
middle
maybe?
school.
Yeah, 13,
maybe like
14,
6th.
15.
Yeah, 6th, 7th.
Whatever. It's still, that's a
Hey,
prepubescent boy.
Those few years matter when you're ruling a giant.
Yeah, I'm sure. Those are harrowing times, 13, 12 to...
But yeah, so either way, I think he was appointed. I want to say he was there for like a couple years as a 12-year-old, left, and then got reappointed when he was like 20. But this guy, he was described as a demon from hell. by like multiple people. Were like, this guy's just a demon. He murdered, raped, and sodomized victims. He was accused of bestiality and hosting orgies, so he was forced out. He was replaced by this guy Sylvester, the next pope.
Really?
Then he came back and he took his throne another time. Then he resigned. So this is like his second time in charge, and like popes don't resign. So he resigned and married his cousin. And then like he was basically like, or from my understanding is he was like bribed to leave. And then he came back again. So basically he was the only pope that served 3 different times. But he kept coming back. And one of the times he left on his own. One of the times it was like, I think maybe it was the last time he was bribed, but they were just like, can you just fucking leave? But yeah, I don't know. He was a maniac. So Benedict.
This is the first Benedict.
This is Benedict the Ninth.
Benedict the Ninth. Okay, because there's a lot of them, wasn't there?
Yeah. And so then we have Alexander the Sixth. He also bribed his way into the papacy. So this guy was like, I think the inspiration for what's like the show,
there's a couple of them, and I have not watched any of the Pope.
I haven't seen
the
any
Pope?
of them. I think the
one with
the Borgia. I don't know. He was part of the Borgia family, which I guess was kind of like a crime family.
Yeah, I remember learning about them too.
But this guy was just like a straight up, like mafia type guy. Already part of a crime family, bribed his way in, became the Pope, fathered 9 children, had orgies. Apparently there was rumors he had incest with his daughter. Just a maniac. But then also, I guess when he was in charge, just like murdering people, like people he was working with, just murdering people. Just like a real scumbag. Just
these are the Pope. We're still talking about the Pope.
And I think this is, I don't know, maybe a little bit later. So not like 1000, but maybe like 1400 or so. But yeah, just a real piece of work. So
it sounds like a party dude.
Sounds like the church.
A lot of these guys were big party dudes. But this guy, I think Alexander the Sixth was like, he's one of the most notorious ones. Like, hence why they made the show about him and all that. But I think he's one of the more like recognized, like corrupt popes.
Yeah.
So then we have Paul the Fourth. Man, these Roman numerals are so stupid. just have to say.
Is it IV?
Yeah. So he was he was elected because basically like a lot of these popes, like especially back then, it was all they just knew somebody and they're like, yeah, you can be pope. But he was elected because he had his connections. Like he was basically connected with somebody, got elected, and this was during the Renaissance. But I guess he was like really out of touch with everything else going on in the Renaissance. So he wasn't into, all the art and intellectual stuff going on. He was
I'm sorry, this was Paul?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so he wanted to whitewash the Sistine Chapel. Like right after it was painted, he was like, no, it should be white. It should be just a... I was like,
he wanted to paint all over.
He wanted to paint the entire Sistine Chapel white. After like,
let's just start over. Yeah. Let's just start over.
I want it in eggshell.
They're going to use this for money later.
Yeah. So that's one of the things. He banned a lot of books and just kind of like not in touch with the times at all whenever everyone's going through the Renaissance. And I think this is like far into the Renaissance.
He's probably like fuck those hippies.
Yeah, but it's not like fuck those hippies. They're starting a movement. It's like, this has been going on for 200 years. And you're now like, oh no, we should go back to...
Things were slower back then.
Man, it was so much greater when everyone had the plague and...
Make the Vatican great again.
Yeah. But he also, he was responsible for creating the Roman ghetto. So super, I don't know, like there were some popes who were very sympathetic with like other religions. He was like, no, fuck any other religion. We're putting them all in one place. So he created the Roman ghetto.
No shit.
And made it a rule so all the Jews that were in the Roman ghetto, when they traveled outside of there, they had to wear yellow, which was like, I guess the color traditionally worn by prostitutes. So he just made him do that as like a...
Jesus.
a thing. So yeah, this guy was super old school, we're going to we're gonna go back to medieval times, and he wasn't down with the whole Renaissance thing. But
was the church white, like all inside white before they painted it?
No,
I never really thought about that.
Yeah.
I think they were always down with paintings. This guy was just, I don't know. I think nobody was on board with this guy. He was just like, it would look better if it was white. And who knows? So next we have Clement the Seventh, which seemed like an okay guy. Like he wasn't a murderer or, rapist like some of these guys, but he spent a ton of money during his time in charge, basically like blew like a lot of their savings. And I don't know, that's all I have for him, but
he's one of the worst.
Reckless spender. Okay.
Reckless spender, we'll say.
But no bestiality, no incest, no orgy. So pretty mild.
Pretty mild, but I guess he kind of ran the church into the ground at the time. I don't have when he was around, but he came up on the list as like worst popes.
As a worst pope, okay.
But I'm sure he did other stuff.
So get the Backyard Boys to look it up and tell us more about
Clementine.
What was his name? Clement?
It was Clement the Seventh.
Clement. That and Sylvester does not sound like a pope name at all.
Yeah. Sounds like some redneck guy is like, hey, it's Clement and Sylvester.
I actually have no idea where Sylvester, the name, comes from. Does anybody know?
We'll have to get a research team.
I was thinking about that.
Yeah. Probably, I don't know, just some old school name. It's like, I mean, if a pope in the like 900s.
Like, would it be Italian? That's what I mean. Like, is that an Italian name, Sylvester?
I guess, yeah. I don't know.
I'm just curious.
So, I mean, Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah. the most famous Italian.
Maybe. You're right.
I don't know who else we need to bring into that. But that's who taught me more about Roman numerals than anybody. Not about him directly, but his movie franchises.
No, he had a...
Rocky IV was the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rocky IV is pretty fucking good.
I always called it Rocky IV, but...
Rocky Drip.
All right, so next we have John the 12th. So this was another young pope. I think he got in when he was 18, and he was basically like a sex maniac, like an addict. He turned the whole place into like a big brothel, and like...
No, bring me the large titty nuns from the hillside. They need to serve. I mean...
And like... He's 18 and he's in there, and I think he was like, all he was doing was like having orgies and sex parties and stuff.
You got to imagine that all of this is going on like under like this Pope Vatican hush talk. Like they're all just rumors about this guy or whatever.
Yeah.
He has sex parties all the time.
And if you speak against it, you can get
right, 100%. Like because this place is small, so like all the Italians are right there on the other side. Like, oh, I heard the Pope was fucking everybody.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Like even if you're the Pope and you're living in like 900, it's like everyone's gonna find out that you're doing this, but. How I guess this guy, like some of the other ones, maybe it's, elaborated stories or something. But with this guy, I think it's verified because he died either from like a heart attack or a stroke while having sex, and I think the other theory is he was like banging someone's wife and the guy came home and just killed him. So he died while, I don't know.
In the Vatican?
Did he die doing the thing he loved.
What?
Coitus.
Yeah. He died during coitus, but I guess it's unclear whether it was like a heart attack or some guy just like beat the... I also saw that maybe he was thrown out of a window, so yeah.
All three at the same time.
And this one's my favorite pope. This is 897, so early on pope, but Stephen the Sixth. So this guy, he I guess he didn't like his predecessor, who was Pope Formosus, but this guy died. Pope Stephen the Sixth took over. He had a trial where he dug up the guy, the previous pope, put him on trial. So it's like the guy's dead body is like sitting on trial, and then they had an interpreter like speaking for the guy. And the old guy, the predecessor, lost. So they They like as punishment for losing the trial when it's already just his dead corpse that they dug up. They took away all of his like possessions in his coffin and whatever, like his royal garb. Yeah. They took that away and then threw him in the Tiber River, and also they cut off 3 of his fingers.
Yeah, it's petty.
Could you imagine if he won?
Oh yeah.
I mean, I think the guy was already dead, and then this guy took office, and then was just like, "No, fuck that guy."
It was a shitty ghost. Trial. It was a shitty ghost lawyer. We're like, retrial.
Dude, this is too good.
And I love that there was like an interpreter who's like defending the guy or like interpreting what the corpse is just 100%. Sitting there, and it's like. This corpse also, it wasn't like the guy just died and they're like, let's bring him on trial. Like, I'm pretty sure he was dead for years, and they just dug up his corpse, brought it in. They're like, you lose, chop off his fingers and throw him in the river.
How has this not been like a fucking like Family Guy episode or some random cartoon where they just reenact this whole shit?
There's a lot of history I haven't gotten, and I'm curious.
But then, actually, after the first trial, they cut off his fingers and buried him. And then I think he brought him back again for like a second trial. Oh, and that's when they threw him in the river. This guy had some huge beef with this guy. That it's just...
No, you know what? We're going to pull him out of the grave. Let's hear what he has to say.
Again. Another trial.
I want to know if they have the same interpreter too.
Yeah, the guy's back again. So I think Stephen the Sixth takes the cake. And
I think he's the best.
Yeah.
No, fuck that. The other guys were awful.
He was the best.
Awesome.
No, he's the best villain. Though. The other ones are just like, out of character for a pope. He's just like a villain.
And everything that I was reading too about it was like, it wasn't just for show. Like he was actually like trying the guy. Like she's like, speak now.
I mean, I can't imagine what kind of trial was going on then. But Jesus, like, yeah, just
there needs to be a story about the interpreter. He's just
it was probably in Latin too.
Somebody's got to find the diaries of the other people that were in presence of this fucking trial, dude, because I want to hear the back and forth. I want to hear all of it. Yeah. I want the courtroom drawings,
the stenographer.
Like, I want all of it.
And then, so I guess after all this, everyone was like, this guy's fucking crazy. So they sent him to jail, and then he was strangled to death by like his cellmate or something. So a fitting end to a crazy dude.
That is not where I thought any of this was going to go.
No, he's definitely the... like all the other ones, it's like, oh, you guys are just like power hungry dudes. Like this guy is just on another level. So yeah, and I'm sure there's more, but these are the ones that kept coming up is like
the worst,
the ancient popes that were just wild. So yeah, I don't know. We'll put Stephen the Sixth up against Mad Mike and some of the other characters on the show we've gotten to know. But yeah, having a trial with a corpse that you dug up and then having a second one, it's like he's just sitting there stewing like, nah, man, he's got to go in that river. Like, he's guilty, dude.
How long between the two trials? Like, how long before they buried him the first fucking time and then they pulled him back out? Stephen, what was his name? Philomeus?
Formosus? Yeah.
Formaldehyde.
I like how that guy didn't come up. Like, he was probably just a normal guy. And the other guy's like, no, fuck him, dude. Chop off his fingers. He's already dead. Yeah, but no.
Formosius did it, I swear.
It was Formosius. Throw him in the river.
We're going to get him on trial. He'll tell it. He'll tell you.
He'll set things straight.
So yeah, I mean, I guess going into our theme of scuba diving, if you did go scuba diving in the Tiber River, maybe you'll find also Formosius's 3 or 2-fingered hand. Or
holy shit.
All right, so those are the crazy popes, but yeah, it's crazy to think that like that's how stuff was 1,000 years ago with some of these guys.
We need to like one of those like the Animaniacs where they sing all the countries of the world, but we go through all the popes. You know? So, because how are people going to ever remember them unless we make a catchy jingle?
Yeah.
226 of them. That's a long fucking song.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the Animaniacs song was pretty long, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think you would need like a play or something to get through all of them.
Dude, they
Like
need
our
to
own
do
version of Hamilton. The CountryBoyz need to write something like that.
Or maybe we just forget about the other ones and just make a play about Stephen
Yeah,
the Sixth.
We'd get killed way before this thing ever made it to Broadway. But yeah, dude, a fucking Broadway play.
Maybe we have to do one of the orgy popes. There's more sex. So.
No,
So
I
it
think
gets
this
picked up by
trial
him.
one.
For the trial, okay.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past Stephen the Sixth to have been having orgies too. I mean, I don't think he was maybe as notorious as the others, but
That just wasn't the craziest
that
thing
was kind
about
of
it.
like,
All the other ones are having orgies. This one.
someone was just obsessed with torturing some other guy who's been dead. All right, so the cultural, so not really much to speak of culturally. Again, we're talking a super tiny place, but
I mean, the culture's the church.
yeah,
Right?
culture's the
It's
church. So we already said the population about 700, but the breakdown, I guess it's one pope, 64 cardinals, 317 diplomats, and then the rest, like 150 or so, are like Swiss Guard and their families. The other thing too, it's 100. Like the makeup of the country is 100% men. So there's no female Vatican.
Oh, no. Oh, okay.
citizens. Going into the Swiss Guard. So this is like the Vatican military,
Right.
I guess. So it started in 1506 as like the Pope's personal bodyguards. They have to be Swiss. They have to be unmarried Catholic males, 18 to 30. So that's the criteria. And they have to already be in like the Swiss Army. So you're in the Swiss Army, and then it's like,
was it an agreement where he's like with the Swiss? Like, you know what I mean? Or like, why do they want to offer up their?
yeah. So I think because the Swiss have always been neutral, he wanted some neutral country to protect him. But I think, I don't know who the first one was, but whoever the Pope was, I guess in 1506 needed protection. And I think then like they had their own army because it wasn't just the Vatican City, but I think just within Vatican City, he wanted like a neutral team of bodyguards to, I don't know, keep them close. And since then they've been the army.
Was the army, when they had an army, was that also Swiss or no?
No, I think that was just like
The guard.
Italian.
So like the population was bigger or whatever.
Yeah. Because it was like
Because I
the
remember
Papal
them having an
States,
army,
the
but-
Holy Roman
yeah.
Empire, like that was all controlled by the Pope.
Right.
That was all then, but it was its own country, I guess.
Right.
But
That makes sense.
yeah, so back then they definitely had like a huge army of.
I also feel like when they would go to war, the church could raise a huge army. You know, local kings and rulers could raise an army for a war because the church was also on their side. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Yeah,
there's
like the
kinda that,
Crusades were everyone from Europe. And I think a lot of them were like French Catholics who were, trying to reclaim the Holy Land, but they were all fighting on the Pope, for the Pope or for the church.
sure,
but the Swiss Guard are specific to just Vatican City, where it's like they're more like the King's Guard in Game of Thrones, where they're just
Yeah.
guarding the city, which that has to be the most boring job ever. Where it's like, what, like they're there with like the axes or the halberds or whatever, and
Yeah.
it's like how many
Literally
times
doing
has anyone used one of those
It's all
things?
ceremonial, kind of like
Yeah.
the
But they get a lot of
king
respect.
or Tomb of the
Yeah, they do
Soldier
get
and
locally.
all that, like
And
those
they
types
could-
of
Yeah,
things, memorials.
Sure. And they
Like
could be
the,
corrupt because they're in the city, so they can shake people down. Maybe not the Swiss Guard, but
Yeah.
well, they have Swiss Army knives.
yeah. Don't get close to them. They'll shank you with the Swiss Army
The
knife.
little
the
knife,
can
the
opener.
little knife attachment.
With the toothpick.
Shit hurts.
So basically, when you're there, what are you doing? We already said it's super tiny, but there's really two things to do. So it's the Vatican museums, which are like one of the biggest museums in the world with tons of, Renaissance and Greek, Roman artworks, Egyptian.
Yeah.
So there's that. Then St. Peter's Basilica, which is the big church or the big cathedral there. But those are really like the two things. We're going to the Vatican, you're either going to St. Peter's Square, or the Vatican museums.
Right.
other than that, we said there's the gardens.
They don't
but
do concerts there. Like, they don't have a. They don't do.
You
they don't have a basketball
two isn't doing a concert at the Vatican.
I thought Taylor Swift was on tour at the Vatican.
I mean, they might do stuff. Vatican Square is pretty big, and I know they do like the
bet they
papal
do
masses
something.
there. But I wouldn't be surprised if like Yanni or somebody played in the.
That'd be interesting. That'd be interesting to know. I don't think
I would
they
imagine
would.
they'd
You think so?
have some sort of,
There's no way.
or maybe like a Catholic singer,
the three tenors. You know, they're like
Yeah.
they're
Something
doing
like-
some shit, like some classical
some
stuff in
opera.
Latin,
I could see that going on, but
some fucking ghost opera juries.
so just some other kind of cultural things. So it consumes the most wine per capita.
Wow.
But again, per capita, we're talking 750 people. So
And that wine at
That's
mass,
still a lot of wine.
but the mass wine.
yeah, and I'm sure it's probably just because of like the mass wine. It's like by default, it's like, well, they drink wine every day.
Do they drink wine at mass?
Yeah, it's
I thought it was just.
bro. It's the blood of Christ.
Yeah, but I thought that
You
they
eat the
switched up
body and you drink the
fucking
blood.
grape juice
'cause
a
you-
long time ago.
No. Maybe
I feel like the Vatican, they're probably still doing wine.
You think so?
I mean,
they don't play games.
I remember going to church and for a while it was still wine.
Yeah.
Like in just a regular Catholic church.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
It was like the one place you could get a sip of real wine. But yeah, no, I think now a lot of places have changed.
Yeah, some have switched to wine cooler, so that's
Yeah, fuzzy navel. Hey, as long as you bless it, then. But also, so most wine per capita. But then, hey, you might want to watch for your walk in here because this has the highest crime per capita. But it's all petty crimes in like
That makes sense.
the square.
Yeah,
It's
like
just
I imagine a lot of
pickpocketing.
pickpockets,
Yeah,
probably a lot of
pickpockets.
people thinking, I'll never get robbed at the Vatican.
Yeah.
It's just a constant ACL. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's why you have your chain wallet on at the Vatican.
Chain wallet.
You'll get a
Let
dirty
those
look
in.
from one of those cardinals. You got a chain wallet in here? Food and drink,
Crackers and wine.
crackers and wine. I don't think there's
Maybe
no
some cheese.
there's no restaurant there. There's no
There's no hot dog stand in
No hot dog
St.
stand.
Peter's Square.
I feel like there's a cafe.
maybe
You get some coffee.
Oh, you know what?
You get
They do have like
There's definitely
they
some
do have a cafe.
croissants. You know, maybe a chocolate filled croissant.
Yeah.
Something.
I feel like they need
French.
something that's like
Hey, it's imported.
they need some sort of like specific Vatican cuisine because you have there's Italian cuisine, Roman cuisine, but I feel like the Vatican needs to market themselves as like, hey, we gotta, I don't know.
I feel like the Vatican's like all food.
And just
It's
add-
God, and we're God.
Yeah.
So all of it's us.
Add a little bit of meat. Serve the wine in a bigger glass and just do cheese boards. Like, that's not too hard.
But you could make some sort of like,
Crackers, body of Christ,
Like-
wine, Jesus.
I don't know, like pretzels
Meat,
and a
the
cross or
goat.
some sort of food that's like unique to the Vatican. Have your own.
Maybe like a Dunkaroos.
Like a Dunkaroo,
Like a Dunkaroos, but Vatican themed. You know?
You dip the Pope in the,
Yeah, the little Pope
the
and the-
yogurt or whatever.
in
this shit
the
is.
pink and
Yeah. That's
in the
it.
red yogurt.
They need something to be a country. You have to have an official food, and it can't just be a wafer. You got to have your own like.
You got to get that rare gray colored graham that you get out, and that's Stephen from Formosa.
So yeah, not nothing to talk about food and drink. So yeah, that's the rundown, or that's the stuff we normally go over. But I guess since we've all been there, we can all say what was our impression of going there. What did you think when you were there? Because we can actually talk about a country first person for the first time.
I guess that's true.
So what was your impression of visiting the country of Vatican City?
I mean, I was in awe. That's a different side of the Vatican that I kind of forget about, or I think most people forget about some of those popes. That should be talked about some more. But the Vatican was awesome. It's bigger than you think when you walk in. That was a holy shit
Yeah,
kind of thing.
No, the St. Peter's Basilica really is like a jaw-dropping moment, just like how big it is and how old it is, how they made it. You're
How
like,
ornate,
it's crazy.
like all the paintings, all the art in there.
Yeah.
I'm just like, holy shit, this is all in one place. It's pretty wild. I mean, just architecture in general is nothing near anything like that they built back then. So it's
Yeah, it's
wild.
definitely like a one of a kind
Right.
structure.
But to be clear, so because I remember I did everything there, but St. Peter's and then the Sistine Chapel, there was like two separate tours, right? But it's one thing essentially, right? It's all part of the
it's
basilica.
all-
It's just
yeah.
like part of the. It's like
yeah, so there's the museums in the Sistine Chapel, which are like kind of one building, and then St. Peter's. I mean, they're right next to each other, but St. Peter's, it's like they're technically two different buildings, but I think the Sistine Chapel is part of the museums, and then the basilica is like its own.
Did we have to
building.
walk out of the building to walk into the basilica? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, you go out from the
it's on the side.
chapel
Yeah,
into into the basilica.
Yeah, it was. At some point in Europe or maybe in the world, if you're not real religious, going to churches and so this guy said one time, he goes ABC, another boring church. But at some point, certain ones stick out, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Like,
100%.
Notre Dame or
Yeah.
Yeah, like Sagrada Familia.
Yeah,
is
exactly.
Crazy.
Cologne Dome, or the anyway, these different ones. And if you don't like that stuff, you're like, wow, this is really impressive. And I had taken art history, not that I've gone to college later in life, and like I had taken art history somewhat recent. So going to there was awesome because I was like, I was pretty ignorant before, and I was like, now I knew a lot more about art. So seeing it all there, and then you get this feeling of like, man, they kind of stole, because they were so powerful.
Oh, yeah.
The popes could just like take whatever art they wanted from antiquity or obtain it. But then also it did stay safe. So there's like the side of it of like,
Right.
they took all this stuff, but like at the same time, maybe it wouldn't be able to see, someone would have destroyed
Yeah.
it. So,
Right.
but it was cool. Yeah. I think the same thing. It was a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be. At the same
Yeah.
time, like it took from my hotel or whatever, it took a lot of walk. I walked the whole way there because being
Yeah.
cheap. But I was like, oh, cool. I'm in the Vatican. It's kind of cool. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It was a cool feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Like, I think walking in, especially in St. Peter's, you're just like, these guys were running shit for so long.
yeah.
Where it's like, that's how you can make something so insane is like,
Right. The power, the money, everything.
just like the
flowed
power
through
they
there.
had was wild. But yeah, it's definitely a one of a kind place as far as what you can see. And I think, like you said, with the art history, I had taken one in college too. And there was some of the shit you forget about. You're like Titian and like some of these painters, and you're like, I'm never going to remember that. And then going to the Vatican, I was like, oh yeah, I actually remember that from art history.
All right, so like, Rodin, cool, damn,
Yeah,
they got
right.
it all here,
Yeah, and just seeing it in person too. There's something about it. Like obviously that's one of the most talked about places, and the art that's in it is what is more of the talked about art that you'll ever take
Yeah.
history classes and stuff on.
And I think
And
too,
to
that's
actually see it, you're like, oh yeah, it's
that's cool.
real. It's not just in a textbook.
I think that's something surprising too, that you think of like the Vatican, it's like, oh, it's just gonna be like churches and like, oh, all the art there is just gonna be like
Church.
church inspired
Yeah.
stuff.
All gonna
And then
have
when you're there, it's
halos
like,
and mandel.
oh, they have
and-
ancient Greek. They have like, it's like a crazy museum,
Yeah.
just let alone from it being like, a Catholic country or a Catholic like region or whatever. But I always thought, oh, it's just gonna be like all old church stuff. But then you're there and you're like, oh no, it's a giant museum with, stuff from all eras. So
I'd visit again. I mean, if I was in Rome.
So yeah,
obviously,
let's go to the judgment. Are we going here, going back here, never going again? Did we see enough the first time, or is it? Are we going back?
I'd walk in. I mean, if I was in Rome again, yeah, why not? Like,
Yeah, I
that
mean,
would
I
be
feel like-
cool enough to visit.
If you're over there, just going into St. Peter's Square at the minimum, you
Yeah.
got to go.
Yeah,
I think on that too, I might not do any of the tours, but I could totally see
Yeah.
going there. And if I was with someone who hadn't done the stuff, I totally would. That's one of
Yeah,
those things.
yeah.
If I
For
don't
sure.
know though. Rome's a huge city, and I feel like after you see all the tourist stuff, I'd like to maybe see a little bit more of the city. So maybe I wouldn't want to go to the
Like
Vatican
hang
for
out
that
in it or
reason.
whatever.
But if I was with anyone who had any inclination to go, I would say yes, I would go.
Yeah,
But I
think
haven't been to
that's
San Marino yet, so I also would say like if it was to save that time, I know it's not that close.
Sure,
but,
yeah.
like,
Yeah, you could
Makes
do.
sense.
You could, in theory, probably do 3 countries in a day, dude. Vatican
Damn.
City, Italy, and San Marino, and
it'd be pretty
all
cool.
in one day. But yeah, all right. So I guess it's a
We'd go back.
unanimous.
Shane hasn't gone, but we're gonna say, "Yep." Justin, "Yep."
Yeah, I think
I don't know
we'll
if
speak
Justin's
for them.
been.
I don't think he's been. Maybe.
Yeah.
But if he
Shane,
had, I think
maybe
he
do
would
we
go.
know?
I don't think so.
Oh,
So we'll speak for them and say they're going. So,
He's
yeah,
unanimous.
I don't think we've had a unanimous one
In a while, it's
but
been.
Yeah.
I feel like the Vatican is like you can go a million times, even if you're not religious or anything. It's like there's still always something to see, and there's always.
I'd imagine. I mean, you could go sit in those museums for a long time. Like,
Oh,
and
yeah.
see
I mean, the
all
museums-
the different stuff. They're bigger than even we saw. We were
For
there
sure.
for a while.
All right, so what do y'all think next?
Shoot.
I mean, we got to shoot across the continent.
Yeah, we can't hang out in Europe.
Yeah,
There's
we've
not
been
that
in
many
Europe, we've
countries
been
in Europe.
I feel like we haven't
Until we
gotten
get to the big dogs.
we haven't gotten to North America in a while. We still have a lot of island countries, so maybe we go to the Caribbean.
When was the last time we went to?
The last time we went to the
North
Caribbean was Dominica, which was
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
number one spot.
Yeah, I was just thinking about looking at flights there. I was just like, not that I have any money. At the
Were you?
moment. I mean, I was like, that'd be kind of cool.
How much?
Hey, that was our unanimous.
We should do a bake sale for
Chosen
Country
one.
Boys.
So where are we going next? Because that could be
Oh.
our next number one. It's the Caribbean, man.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, we've already been to. I think episode 3 was Saint. What was it? Saint Kitts and Nevis.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah.
maybe we'll go to another saint. There's 3 saint countries. So maybe we'll do Saint Vincent and the Grenadines.
Okay.
All right. So yeah,
Hell
let's
yeah.
I'm down with that. Let's go
Yeah.
to the Caribbean.
let's go to the
I
Caribbean.
could use a tan.
Yeah. After all that sightseeing in the Vatican, we need to
Yeah.
Been
put our
cold
feet
for
up.
2 weeks here, and all of a sudden we need to keep bring me back to the sun.
Where's my snorkel lessons?
All right. We'll see you in Saint Vincent.
See you in St. Vincent.